So, welcome to those of you in the room. I know that there are people on Zoom who already told me they wouldn't be here because they couldn't get here this morning. So for those of you who are on our live stream YouTube channel and don't know, today is the Chicago Marathon, so our streets are kind of closed around us somewhere. So those of you who made that, thank you for being here. And I just want to welcome the people again on Zoom. Those of you who are on Zoom, welcome. This is a really important session for us, but you can will also be able to get this on our YouTube channel at Fourth Press. I want to remind you that it's being recorded, so that's one of the reasons we have to use the microphone when we ask questions. So I know some of us are not used to the microphone, but it's important so that people on YouTube can hear it. And also, this may be one of those YouTube videos resting at Fourth Presbyterian Church that will be seen over and over and over again, because Pastor Nanette Sawyer has a lot of information. I'm Regan Burke. I am a member of the Adult Education Committee at Fourth Presbyterian Church. I want to make an announcement about this. So, you know, if you're kind of tired of looking at people that look like me, join the Adult Education Committee. You know, I'm pretty hip, really. You could tell by my necklace. But, you know, we could use some younger minds, or fresher minds, I should say, although there's nothing like the wisdom that's on this Adult Education Council, and you will really benefit from people who are on it, but we need you. Today concludes our 3-week series on the Presbyterian Church's Pushback on Project 2025. And you can see the past two. This was in the bulletin this morning, too. You can see the past 2 sessions on our YouTube channel. I want to just read this again about Project 2025, created by the Conservative Heritage Foundation. Project 2025 is the administration's blueprint to reshape America through the dismantling of federal agencies, rewriting social policies, and shifting power to the executive branch of government. Next week, Pastor Jeff Doan will delve into the question, what can we learn from the Barmen Declaration about our need to resist as a faithful Christian community? That's also in your bulletin, a really nice prayer today, by the way, from the Barmen Declaration. So the Barmen Declaration is one of 2, I believe. I'm not a scholar on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. Presbyterian Confessions of Resistance. It was written and talked about and discussed in 1930s Germany and laid down in 1934 as Hitler and his forces sought to control all spheres of society, including the church. So today, Pastor Nanette Sawyer will present a lot of the responses to Project 2025 by other local faith communities and answer any questions you may have from the series. Right, Nanette? Forgot to ask her if she could answer any questions. Let me just remind you, it's in the bulletin today about Tuesday night. I'm sorry, I'm banging around here. Tuesday night, there's a prayer vigil here for our city. And somebody asked me, because I'm often a needle in people's sides, what I would like to see. And I said, if it's here, if it's the church, the first things out of your mouth should be prayer, which I really, really believe in. And so I'm not saying that the prayer vigil is a result of that conversation. I think I just doubled down on what was already going on, maybe. But on Tuesday, it will be live streamed. They haven't decided that yet, so just look for it. But we, as a witness of the Presbyterian Church, are stepping out into the world and making our voices known. And you can see that through our Presbyterian pastors. David Black, who's at the First Presbyterian Church in Woodlawn, he's the one that you've seen that got over and over on the news, that got shot in the head with a pepper ball. And Quincy Worthington, who is at the First Presbyterian Church in Highland Park, who was on NPR this morning. If you were late for church like me, he was on as I was walking out the door. Anyway, you can hear that later. So my feeling is, as a person who's been involved in politics for all my life, is that the Presbyterian Church is now the public witness for the faith community in Chicago. And we will be called upon more and more to be active and public about our witness. All right, let's begin with a moment of prayer. Holy Creator, we lay our faltering hope for peace in Gaza at your feet. Help us accept the love you send through our curiosity for the truth and our hunger to help others. May that love override the anger we feel as we witness harsh injustice and inexplicable evil. Protect our kidnapped neighbors in Chicago and their left-behind families. We pray for courage. Thank you for the witness of love and action we see in the courage of our fellow Presbyterians, Pastor David and Pastor Quincy. Give us the wisdom to live into spiritual solutions to overwhelming problems. Thank you for loving us, for loving others, and for the transformational commandment to love our enemies. Bless our communal strength. Amen.
Amen.
Pastor Nanette.
Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone. It is great to be with you, talking about a difficult topic, but something that we care about so passionately. I am here to talk about what can we do? And I heard in last week's session, but what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? So there is so much. There's so much. And I think it is really important to remember that everything that each one of us does as an individual is a part of what is being done by many, many people. We are a network of people. As Christians, we are the body of Christ, but we are also the body of God's creation, and none of us exists alone. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about a lot of different kinds of ways that you can be involved and engaged and resist. There's so much going on. The news is coming at us fast and furious. It was very hard to try to synthesize all of that and somehow organize it and give you a direction. So we're just going to dive in and do the best we can. Different ways you can be engaged with education and seek out information and perspectives that can help you understand what's happening and what to do. There are many kinds of training that you can receive, and some of them are now online trainings. I'm going to talk about some of those. Rapid response training, know your rights trainings. Hopefully we'll get some peacekeeper, peacemaker trainings going. You can be a physical presence, and in different ways. If you, we had one church member who didn't feel comfortable being in a large crowd at a demonstration, so she went to a court watch, and she was at one of these court cases just with a whole bunch of other people to witness and be present during that court case, accompanying people who are going through immigration issues. And so we'll talk more about that. Documentation of everything that's going on is really important. There are different ways you can do that. Information sharing can happen through rapid response teams and through legal hotlines and calling things in. We can get involved in advocacy work, which might mean writing letters or making phone calls to politicians, news outlets, civic leaders, people who have influence. And then we have to remember our spiritual well-being, because we need to be rooted and grounded in a spirit of love. and we need to have endurance to carry on. And so I'm going to begin with a brief scripture for grounding in Scripture and faith from 2 Timothy. The Apostle Paul writes, "I remind you to rekindle the gift of God that is within you through the laying on of my," Paul's, "hands. For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather a spirit of power and of love and of self-discipline." So all three of those things, like tapping into the power that is a God-given gift of ours, but remembering that that is always rooted and grounded in love. And what does that mean? We have to practice it and think about it. And we need self-discipline to keep ourselves strong, to care for our bodies, to be able to show up in the different places that we're able to show up. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to be sharing things that different churches and faith communities are doing and some details about trainings and so on that you can be part of. So first, I'm going to show a 5-minute clip from Reverend Otis Moss, one of our friends and colleagues at our church siblings at Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. This is just a 5-minute talk, and he's going to make some framing remarks. He does these things called, "Just give me 5 minutes." So that's what this is.
There is a strategy we must all recognize being used to defeat our ability to resist and to place us in a space of fear and also of believing that we cannot change our circumstance. Strategy one that is being used is the language of hate. Us versus them. An amorphous, they are the ones that are the problems in this world. Strategy number two that is being used is the creation of the other. By having us believe and using language that all brown people are undocumented, or using the word illegal. Just as it was in South Shore, they said it was people, we were looking for the undocumented, but then the narrative changed when they were questioned on this, the government that is. They said we were also searching for gang members, black and brown, finding an other and blaming the other for all of our problems. The third pillar is to use the military to expand the powers of the executive branch and the powers of the military and federal forces. The fourth pillar is to attack the press and to say you cannot trust the press. It's fake news. Who should you trust? The fifth pillar is to co-opt religion and to bring into play Christian nationalism, where religion becomes an arm of the state or of government. Sixth pillar is to attack your opponent in such a way where you dehumanize your opponent where they are outside of the human family. How do we fight back? The first thing that we must do is have a Jesus-centered faith, a gospel-centered faith. The second piece is that we must be educated and empowered with good information. I commit to you as your pastor that I will do my best to ensure that this congregation has the best and most reliable information so that you may be educated and empowered every single week. The third is solidarity. Solidarity with our Latino sisters and brothers, our Haitian, Ghanaian, Nigerian, Korean, Indian, those who are considered to be others. We must band together. And we must also understand that it is not one group of people that are challenging democracy here. It's not white people. There is a small group of people in power right now that want everyone fighting with each other. But if we decide that we are going to band together, just like Fred Hampton did, we will be able to get through this moment. The fourth pillar is to hold your organizations accountable. Whatever organization you are a part of, what are they doing to speak about what is happening in this nation right now? Whether it is a book club, fraternity, or a sorority, what is your organization doing? And I speak to those who may be under the sound of my voice on the internet. What is your church doing? Are you being silent, or are you speaking with moral clarity in this moment? God is calling us. Our ancestors have already been through this moment, and we can look to them to learn how we deal with right now. And that is my 5 minutes.
So, I'm just going to put all those up here. I'm not going to read through each one, but just so you can look at it. These are the tools that we've been talking about for weeks. These are the things we're reading about in the news. These are the things that are distressing us. And how do we fight back? Our faith, solidarity, moral clarity, and learning from our ancestors. So with that beautiful frame, these are just some threads that we can carry through as we think about other things that we too can do. About a dozen pastors from our presbytery recently went to an interfaith rally at Daly Plaza. Solidarity, groups of people, interfaith, praying and chanting under the theme Faith Over Fear. The Faith Over Fear Coalition. Pastor Joe has been connecting our church up with that coalition. Other pastors and congregations from our presbytery have also joined in rapid response teams and protests outside the Broadview Detention Center, and I'm going to show you some pictures of that as well. This is from an article by Reverend Magdalena Garcia, who's pastor at Ravenswood Presbyterian Church. One of the things they're doing is they're having a vigil every Friday night at their church. You are certainly welcome to go. Their congregation is very bilingual, and so they are standing together with immigrants and having this vigil every Friday night. Regan also already mentioned that we're going to have a vigil here at Fourth Church as well. So Tuesday night, 6:30 in Buchanan Chapel. Another time to pray for our city. Please bring your prayers and come for that. This happened last Friday, but I show it to you by way of an example. As people continue to have all these kinds of actions, more of this will come. So our moderator of the Chicago Presbytery, Reverend Shauna Bowman, invited us all to join with the Chicago Presbytery and with Christian pastors from various denominations. They gathered outside the Broadview station where people at the ICE facility there, and had communion. So here's some pictures of that. They had a communion table. They shared communion with one another. You can see our pastor Rocky was there. So one of the ways, and many pastors from our presbytery are also there. So joining in on activities like this is something, one of the many options, one of the many ways that you can get involved. But I want to talk about making your actions and your action plan, bringing it local. So we can go to Broadview, we can go to different churches, but also, some of you know who your alderman is, some of you might not. If you don't know, find out who your alderman is and find out what help is needed. They might have volunteer lists that you can sign up for. If you find in your research about your neighborhood that your neighborhood is pretty safe, that ICE is not threatening your neighborhood, find out another neighborhood that isn't really safe right now. Where is ICE showing up? You can go there, go with a friend, or go with a group, and you can just shop there. You can invest money into the neighborhood. You can eat at Mexican restaurants in certain neighborhoods. You can be a visible presence and be ready with your phone to record if you see any kind of ICE activity. So one of the things that is happening is we're just trying to map and understand where ICE is and what they're doing. And we find that sometimes they will describe a situation, but the video tells another story. And that video is very important to have on hand, and there are websites where you can upload your video. There are phone numbers you can call. And I have that in the handout at the back of the room, also on these slides. So for those of you watching online, you can take screenshots of some of these, and we'll try to get these slides shared online as well, so people could download them, and the one-page, two-sided handout as well. So I'm going to use my neighborhood as an example to put flesh on this story. So I live in Rogers Park. My alderwoman is Maria Haddon. And so she has volunteer sign-up sheets online that you can click on, and they will let you know what help they need. There has been a lot of ICE activity in the Rogers Park neighborhood, and so the neighborhood is mobilizing. They're showing up in different places, and in fact, there's an organization called Protect Rogers Park. And so they put this out on Facebook: join us to stand with our neighbors and say no ICE in Rogers Park, no ICE in Chicago. We're going to give Clark Street its best business day of the year. Canvass the hood, be present, be in community together, and get more people involved in our work. Bring a friend, good walking shoes, plan to spend money, bring cash please, and have a meal on Clark Street as you are able. Clark Street, where there's been a lot of ICE activity. This is a way where it's not protesting, you know, but it's being a good neighbor. And this is something that is core and essential to our faith. That's another way that you can participate. Change your Facebook social media algorithm if you need to. If you're not seeing any activities coming up, you can change that by searching for certain things. And so this is like how I found Protect Rogers Park. And then you like that. You click on the activities, and then your algorithm changes, which means Facebook starts showing you other things like that thing. So it might not be showing you what the opportunities are if you haven't been seeing them before. You got to proactively change that algorithm. So there, the physical presence. Here's something that's coming up this afternoon. And again, these are going to keep coming fast and furious. This is at 4:30 today at the Broadview ICE facility. A silent meditation protest, followed by a brief discussion of Gandhi's writings on satyagraha, which is the Sanskrit word for nonviolence resistance. Satyagraha means to hold on to the truth. And Gandhi called that soul force, to have soul force, to hang on to the truth, nonviolent resistance, to just be peace in our bodies. But if you're going to do something like go to Broadview, you're going to need some training and preparation. You need to be ready for that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit now. The Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights is a major organizing force here. They have an online rapid response training, and they have an online Know Your Rights training. I took the rapid response training, and I want to just show you a few slides from that training and give you a sense and a few tips that I picked up. So what is rapid response anyway? It's a community-led response designed to mobilize support and resources in moments of crisis, particularly immigration enforcement actions such as raids, detentions, and deportations. So I've heard stories where ICE shows up in a place and the rapid response network goes out and 100 people show up in that street within a couple of minutes. And they are a presence witnessing and photographing and videotaping, there's the word. And that's a rapid response. And the more connected we can be, the more power we have as the people here, caring for each other and caring for our neighbors. The rapid response is rooted in mutual aid. There's trained community members, immigrant rights organizations, allies, people impacted by immigration enforcement. So Fourth Church has a rapid response network. And you can get hooked up to that by writing to Pastor Joe Morrow, and he will get you connected to that so that when things need to happen, notes will go out. So the purpose of the Rapid Response Network, it connects people connected by the raids. It helps us gain a better understanding of the tactics of the immigration enforcement, and it strengthens our network of support. It exposes violations of our constitutional rights. It gets the word out there so we can stay on top of what's happening. There are many different ways you can play a role if you're part of a rapid response team. A verifier is, you see the person with a little phone camera, like you can be recording things. Engagement, talking with people, care, support for people who are harmed in some of these situations, or walking with someone who is going through a difficult time. You can lift things up on social media, and you can be a know your rights defender. You can share what you know about the rights, especially if you go through the online know your rights training. Then you'll know more things to share to let people know and encourage them when they're being challenged. So things to consider before you go to a place like the Broadview Detention Center. Do not interfere with the raid. Not even if someone is arrested or if you see ICE agents using force. We don't want you to be hurt. But document that. So if you can, try to record it as best as possible. Keep a safe distance, at least one step out of the agent's reach. You may advise people who are being questioned or detained about their rights. You have a right to remain silent. You know, the different things. Because people who are being grabbed or abducted or detained just need a word of encouragement and a reminder. Follow your digital security practices. Not exactly sure what that means, but we'll all find out. So, in Illinois, you can exercise your right to document law enforcement in a public place and in your own property. So that's where your camera comes out. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it will be respected. So you've got to take care of yourself. If agents tell you to step back, step back. If agents start to approach you, take some steps back. If agents tell you that you're interfering, but you're not interfering, you're just videotaping, you can assert your right to record the interaction and take steps back. See this theme there? So we're not confronting. I'm going to keep whipping through this material, if I may, and take questions a little bit later. So to give you language, if you're in that kind of a situation, you can say, I am watching from a reasonable distance. I am exercising my right to document this interaction. I am not interfering. I am exercising my right to record this interaction. It is legal in the state of Illinois to record this interaction. It's just giving information, narrating what's happening, but take the steps back. We don't want anybody to get hurt. Put this phone number in your phones. This is one of my top 2 things that I want you to do today. This is the Family Support Network phone number of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. You can call this phone number to report where you've seen ICE, to report what you've seen. You can call them for help. Immigrants can call them for help. They can help get legal aid. They can they map out where ICE is, and they send that out on their networks too, so people are forewarned on where things are happening. This is on the paper handout as well, in a little box at the bottom of the back page. One of my top 2 things. Sign up for that. If you go to one of these places, you might get handed a little slip of paper with some kind of contact information too. So in addition to that family support network, the National Lawyers Guild of Chicago also has some numbers you can call to ask for legal assistance. You can send videos of arrest or of police violence to that Lawyers Guild too. So information sharing through the rapid response networks is an important part of what can happen. If you sign up for a rapid response network, particularly, well, any of them, you'll receive information about different kinds of opportunities. So there might be opportunities for trainings you can take, opportunities for where you can pray, where there's a vigil, opportunities for donating to support this particular family or that individual who has been abducted or whose family is now struggling. Opportunities for court watching, to just show up and let the judges know that the public is watching and we are aware. Opportunities for demonstrations or links to other organizations. Rapid response networks can give you this. Now, we're all different, and we're all going to choose how to engage these issues at different levels, by different methodologies. But we keep putting a reminder on the Fourth Church Rapid Response Network that our Mission and Justice Committee has named their priority of resisting unrequested and unwanted military intervention and occupation in our city, and aggressive taking and detaining of vulnerable members of our community in contradiction to city and state law. So this is kind of our priority. This is what we're resisting to the best of our ability, calling for city and state law to be acknowledged, calling for the protection and the respect of our vulnerable neighbors, calling for the civil rights that belong to all human beings in our country, regardless of their citizenship status. So that was a fire hose of information. I'm going to take a step into education, an education opportunity for you. Regan talked a little bit about what is Project 2025, the conservative mandate from the Heritage Foundation. This is how the ACLU describes what it is: restructuring the executive branch, conservative think tank that opposes abortion and reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, immigrants' rights, and racial equity. So that's the description, but there is a website I want to introduce you to. This is the Project 2025 tracker. It shows how far this project has been implemented, and it gets down into some details and nitty-gritty. So they're saying about 48% of what was set out in that Project 2025 has been achieved. And they show the objectives, the agencies that have been involved, and what is this Project 2025? I wondered, like, who's tracking this? Are they a side, a perspective? They are trying to be neutral, but just monitor for transparency what is happening. They're not advocating for or against specific policies. They're just naming what the plan and the goal was and what's happening. Their goal is to increase transparency and public awareness of policy changes that are happening. So they encourage users to research multiple sources, always a good idea, and form your own opinions about this Project 2025. But on this website, you can see details like this. U.S.A. there were 6 objectives. That's been 100% achieved. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, 1 objective. Corporation for Public Broadcasting, 1 objective. Achieved. White House, 13 objectives, 92% achieved, and so on. If you dig down deeper in this, they'll give you a box on the different things, what has been achieved, and it has sources at the bottom. Department of the Interior, Department of State, Department of Treasury, what their goals were. Here's one for the White House. Use government contracts to push back against woke policies in corporate America. So they have terminated at least 80 contracts related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility So that's the other thing. ADA accessibility is part of that. The Department of Education cut contracts to support students with disabilities, low-income schools, and Trump signed an executive order targeting woke AI models. I don't even know what that means. But this website tags this, LGBTQIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and all the sources of where they're getting this to say that this goal has been completed as described in Project 2025. So, resistance. I see that my next slide is about a public witness strategy. I'm going to go through different kinds of strategies that we're involved in. Public witness strategy. This is a map of all the locations where there's going to be a No Kings rally on October 18th. That's a lot of rallies. So you can learn about that from like moveon.org or indivisible.illinois.org, and they have trainings that can help you get ready for that if you feel like you want to participate in one of these No Kings rallies. Public witness strategy. We also need an electoral strategy because with Project 2025 and the goals of changing the structure of government, we have to think about who we're voting into government leadership. So one organization I want to introduce you to is called Vote Common Good. This is founded by a pastor friend of mine, Doug Padgett, in Minneapolis. They have this big truck wrapped with this sign, Faith, Hope, and Love, supporting democracy for all. Their mission is they drive around different states and all different places, and they get people to talk together, Republicans and Democrats. They talk about what is white Christian nationalism and how is that not the mainstream Christian faith that we hold to. How is justice part of our faith? And they're looking for common ground. Many people have, common decency commitments, and they want to enable conversations. It's an electoral strategy because they're trying to help people feel that they can make their choices about who they vote for based on their ethics and not based on a party, this party or that party. But what's the moral clarity we need when we vote? In some ways, this is also a social strategy because it's very interactive, trying to get people to talk across their differences. We have legislative strategy, and we need this. The ACLU is very active with court cases. The National Lawyers Guild that I mentioned earlier. Thank God for our lawyers who are fighting for all of our civil rights. So you can go and read about what the ACLU is up to at their website. You can support them. Legislative strategy. To say that things are illegal when they are illegal, Social strategy is a different thing. I touched on it a little with Vote Common Good. There's another thing a pastor friend of mine showed me recently, the Builders Movement. So I've just started learning about this. You can sign up for weekly inspiration tools and ways to take action to overcome the us versus them mindsets and how we can solve our toughest problems together. So they have, if you get their daily email, they'll send you challenges on the news you watch, how you talk to people, how you think about things, to help us get better at finding our unity and our common convictions as human beings. Because we have a lot of those common convictions. But we have been sorted into stereotypes. And if we allow ourselves to be sorted and to believe that there is an us and a them, especially a broad-based us and them, we become more controllable because we can be triggered against them, whichever them, that them or that them, it doesn't matter. So social strategy is learning how to change how we function in community as human beings. So some of their framework is they're trying to help us think about our creativity to work together, our curiosity about each other, our compassion for all people, our courage to take a stand when we need to take a stand. These are things we can do if we are committed to being builders and not destroyers in our society. A communication strategy is another level. So I thought Block Club Chicago might be a place I would encourage you to look for. And because Block Club Chicago writes kind of like very super local news. And it describes what's happening block to block in Chicago and in different neighborhoods. So again, you can find out how to love your neighbors and how to know when our neighbors are at risk and being harmed. So that's a communication strategy. Here's a few organizations that could help us be engaged. Again, I've mentioned a bunch of these, but other immigrant resource centers, I mentioned Vote Common Good, Builders Movement, Interfaith Alliance. Equality Illinois, I'll lift that up because I've been mostly talking about refugee rights, but we have to also be thinking about the LGBTQ community and how they're under attack. And while ICE is out gathering up immigrants or people that they are deeming immigrants and just targeting because of how they look, people are also writing legislation and targeting the LGBTQ community in other ways too. So that and accessibility and the ADA issues, we need to sort of keep the big picture in mind about all of that. Deep breath. That is a fire hose of information that I wanted to get out to you to think about a framework. And ending with spiritual well-being. How many people have felt some anxiety in the last month related to all of this stuff? How many people have felt despair in the last month? Overwhelmed? And this is one of the strategies to create chaos, to keep it coming at us, to make us feel like we are powerful, to make us feel that we have no control over our future or what our world looks like. But we have so much power, and we have more power because we have each other. I know, like, for a while I was thinking, like, where are the leaders? Who's going to lead us? And we have this idea that there would be like one big leader who would lead everybody. The problem is, when there's one leader, they can be killed. And they have been so many times. We need to all be the leaders. We need to be networks. Networks of love, which means we have to find the love in ourselves. Means when we get despairing, overwhelmed, powerless, terrified, we need spiritual strategies of renewal for ourselves. One thing that I mentioned on the paper handout is finding an inner sacred place. A place that you could go to in your mind, and you could do it at your home alone or in the middle of your day when you feel this stuff hit you, or you could do it if you're at a demonstration and things are getting chaotic. And it's practicing visualizing a space in which you are safe, surrounded by God's vast power and creativity. For me, the image of light is very strong, and I can practice in my prayer like entering into a place of light. For some reason, I also picture like a place in the deep, deep woods where there's a deep well. You know, the water is there, and God's creation, and the light is all effusive all around. And just practice sitting in that place and taking in that experience of being there into the physical body. Our physical bodies register the trauma that we're all experiencing in these times, and our bodies can sort of get into an automatic, like, reiterating that trauma, re-feeling that pain. So we have to train our bodies to remember another kind of thing, a kind of spiritual centering and strength and power and love that we have for ourselves and that God has for us, most importantly. Now we can even extend that meditation to challenge ourselves and to grow ourselves once you get that feeling in your body of being safe, of feeling whole, of being aware of somehow God's love for you. You can start to introduce someone who makes you uncomfortable into the edge of your space and see if you can keep that feeling of love in your body while you're thinking about that person. And that might be some of the ICE agents you might encounter in different settings, or it could be anybody who causes you discomfort. This is a spiritual muscle that we're exercising. How do we really love our enemies? As we prayed before this, that transformative commandment from Jesus to love our enemies, how do we really do that? It takes some practice. I also want to say spiritual well-being is connected to physical well-being, and so we must find ways to get good sleep, good nights of sleep. We must eat. We must drink water and stay hydrated. It seems so fundamental, but it's connected to our sense of well-being as humans. And our physical well-being is also connected to our capacity to be with friends and to make friends and to be seen and be parts of collectives that have purpose, like, say, a church. In one of the prior weeks, I'm trying to remember, I think it was the first week in this series, the person from the Office for Public Witness said that in churches, we are living the democracy that we want. So just being a church together with our democratic ways, especially a Presbyterian church, we are living the democracy we want to see, and we can keep practicing that and living that. So with that, I'm going to open it up to a little bit of discussion. We have about 15 minutes. People may want to share some of their experiences that they've had or ask questions. Yes, Margaret.
Thank you, Regan. And Nanette, I have 2 points. One of them is that I have been calling Congress, not just Illinois Congress people, but anybody. If I hear somebody on the news making a great point or saying something that I favor, I've been calling and saying, hello, thank you, that was a great point, I love it, thank you for saying that. And the only question I've had when I've admitted I can't vote for you because I'm not in your district is just, what's your zip code? It's not, don't call back because we don't want to know, because that's a way of saying, hey, there is support for you out in the country, and here's where it is. So I'm saying my zip code is 60660, and I like what you're saying.
Nice.
And I look at that as part of Paul's advice to the Philippians about whatever's just, whatever's good, think about these things.
Yes,
and
beautiful.
It helps because I think of, yes, I found something good today. And the other thing I thought of in the us versus them is that during a writer's workshop one time, we were talking about all the different groups we belong to, and I made a journal page which was about 3/4 of a decent-sized page of writing of all the different categories I belong to, and all the different ways people could call me them. White, female, college-educated, Protestant, left-handed, all the different kinds of groups I belong to, which were them to other people.
Yes.
And a lot of them conflicted.
We are complex individuals, yes, and we belong to so many communities that overlap, and understanding that is helpful. Thank you. Okay. Yes, there's...
I asked Reb to help me because this work has given me a backache.
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
I just want to say I was at Broadview on Saturday with some people from here. Rocky, as you saw, Pastor Rocky was there. Cynthia Joho was there. there's some other people there. I'm not going to remember. But anyway, and there is a temporary restraining order now, thanks to journalists, protesters, and our Presbyterian friend, David Black, went to court on Thursday and got a temporary restraining order so that we can't be hit by pepper balls and mace for 14 days. So that brings us through the October 18th, no King's Day. So that day we will be safe. And that held yesterday morning. It held all day yesterday. So that will hold, so you don't have to be afraid of that. And that may turn into a permanent injunction, so watch that. Those of you who watch these things, if you could watch that. And if you're on the rapid response list with Pastor Joe, get on it. And if you hear about, we really rely on this kind of information, and we don't all get it right away. There are people who went to court on Thursday from here, as Nanette said, and witness that. And the other thing is that one of the things I witnessed too was the National Lawyers Guild is out there, and so they're out there everywhere. They have volunteer lawyers that come out there. So I witnessed somebody who was approached, and immediately 2 lawyers came over, and they were really good at demonstrating what Nanette said in stepping back and stepping back and stepping back and recording it, and then talking to the person afterwards, or, what's your name? We're going to help you, right? Don't worry, we're here. It was really great. So there are lawyers in all of these rallies, and particularly there at Broadview, because the laws are being broken out there. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience. It was a communion service, and so it was just a wonderful experience, because there's a galvanizing effect that that we're not alone. And for me, it's really important to be in a faith community with people of faith. It's important. So thank you.
Thank you, Regan. Thank you. So that's reminding me, the second thing I wanted to tell you all to do was definitely email Joe Morrow to get on that rapid response list. So that phone number in your phone, and get on the rapid response list, because it's a way we can communicate, and you can discern how you're going to be engaged in actions. I did see her hand next, Julia, I believe, and then back over to you. Thank you. And then if you have something.
Hi, Pastor Nanette. Can you tell us about the orange whistle around your neck and what that is for those people who may not know? And also if you have any advice on where we can get those whistles? I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, so one of the ways that people are mobilizing is when they see ice, they blow the whistle, and the people in the neighborhood, and people who hear the whistle blow the whistle, and it calls people to gather quickly. Anything else about the whistle? So we just, my wife and I got this online. We got it at Amazon. We looked for orange whistles. Other people may have other ideas, but that worked. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I wore that because I wanted to make that point. Yeah, I think we have Marilyn waiting, and then Gail, and then we'll come back to you guys after that.
I was just wondering, teleologically, are people that are being picked up and taken to Broadview, are they brought downtown for immigration court? In other words, I live in this neighborhood, and it would be easy for me just to go down to the downtown courthouse, and that's one thing. Are they brought into the Cook County judicial system in the immigration court? And then the secondly, how do you find out when the cases are being heard?
These are great questions about the court watch opportunities. I know there are opportunities to walk with immigrants who are going through some court cases. There are also immigrants who are just being whisked away, and we don't always know where they're, and that's Broadview. Once they get to Broadview, Regan is suggesting they're likely to be just taken out of the country rather than sent through. And that is part of what the protests are about, I think, that people deserve due process. So, okay, let Regan have a microphone. She has more of the details on this than I do.
Our rapid response group now, is there anybody here that's in that? Because there's a lot of people in it that I don't know.
Yeah, there's a
great. So were you in court? Our rapid response group is reporting when these court cases are coming up. And that it is rapid response. Like it happened Thursday morning, maybe Polly is involved. Yeah. And then it like happened Thursday morning, and there were people from that group that were there and reported on it to us. Yeah, so that was really great.
Right.
I wanted to say, too, about Broadview. So for years now, Broadview's been a detention center for years, and there have been some nuns out there, I can't remember the name of the order, who have been praying the rosary every Friday morning at 7 a.m. And one reason they went out there originally, is because they had an understanding that most of the people in that detention center were Catholics. So that's not necessarily true anymore, true, right? But a lot of Latin immigrants are Christians. A lot come from the Pentecostal faith, and a lot are Catholics. So we try to, like one of the things that we were doing on Friday morning, or yesterday, whenever it was, morning, was that witness to them, that we're with you, that Jesus is with you. There's this sort of spiritual connection to them. And also, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, you may have seen this on the news, there's a Catholic church in Maywood that something like 1,000 people, is that right? That's what I heard, walked a mile to the detention center to give them communion, and they wouldn't let them give them communion, although there is a law that was passed that says, they have to do that, or they do that, and so because they wouldn't let them do it, that's illegal. So what happens to all these illegal? Are you two lawyers? What happens to all these illegal things? We don't really know yet, but that's illegal to prevent them from having communion.
Right. So now in the back of the room there, we had a couple of people. Oh, Gail, I skipped over you.
Thank you.
You want to? Let's go to Gail first. Sorry, I told Gail she would go next.
This may sound strange, but I feel like there's a shift that I can feel. And I had to be down here on Michigan Avenue for 2 days just lately, and there were so many people and no issues and no problems, and I could almost feel the joy in people. And I would say thanks to everybody that's working on this, because it is so important.
Mm-hmm. So important what everyone is doing. Yes, thank you.
That's it. It's just a good feeling.
Thank you, Gail. So the two women on inside first, and then I see, the pink shirt.
Raise your hand.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello.
As a minor and somebody who can't really drive a car and can't exactly walk to a lot of these places if they're too far away, I was wondering what good steps for somebody like me would be able to take. I mean, obviously I have adult friends and family connections that'd be able to help me, but that doesn't always work out, and it's kind of hard to schedule, and my family obviously wants me to be safe. So
yes.
what are tips you might have for somebody like me who really wants to help out in whatever ways they can, but doesn't necessarily have all the resources?
Yes, great question. Thank you so much for that. For everybody who's being involved, we are encouraging everybody to have a buddy when you're doing stuff that's physical and out in the world. And there is some physical stuff out in the world that you could do. Like, one of the things is calling school principals and finding out how the schools are creating safe passageways for other kids and youth to get to school safely. Some of the children of immigrants or children who are immigrants are not always feeling safe and may not be going to school. So I don't know if maybe there's some way you could work with adults in your neighborhood or find out where are some kids who need safe passage. I think also you can do stuff online and learn things and skills and get education. Do the Know Your Rights training, for example, and even the rapid response training, just to understand like the whole system of what's happening. And some of that stuff you can do now with the adults in your life who can support you. Some of it you're preparing yourself for later as well. So you're becoming a responsible citizen of this country, really. I don't know if that's good enough, but those are some of my initial thoughts. Yes. This will be the last question.
I fear that besides immigrants, and I think perhaps to the LGBTQ community, the mental health community is going to be, I think, the next target. On Friday, the administration laid off almost all of the mental health employees, including those that are watching the hotline and monitoring the hotline. Do you expect that our responses will soon include those, or are you planning to determine what we might do to protect those with mental health issues, including many of our Sunday night guests?
Yes, wow. You know, what's flashing in my mind is that Project 2025 and how there's this systematic deconstruction of all the protections and safety nets that we have put in place over the last several decades. I certainly hope that we try to find ways to address that. I think we're still struggling from a lot of deconstruction of our Illinois mental health facilities that greatly increased the number of people that we have living on the streets now, because the places where they were treated and where they lived were taken apart in earlier budget cuts. So I certainly have no answers for you, but I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I do think mental health, disability rights, access, anybody who is not the straight, cisgender, middle class, employed, educated people who are the us in this white Christian nationalist worldview. Everybody else is at risk of being pushed further and further to the edges of society. And as Christians, we have a different worldview. We have an idea that we take care of each other, that we're a community. And we're going to have to figure it out together, because I really don't have the answers, but I do think the closest answer I have is we are doing it together. We are the leaders that we hope for, all in our realm of influence. We just got to keep being we the people. We the people. So I thank you all so much for being here. Thank you.